Colleges to me are the most in-your-face, flagrant racket that is already dead. It just doesn't know it yet.
How do we spot an employee who cares versus one who just doesn't seem to care?
So you can have like very qualified individuals who just don't get invested into what you're trying to do. Their skills, for that reason, are not as valuable as they would have otherwise been if they were just a little bit more attentive.
Do you think that marketers, because the pressure, the deliverables, the results, that they're too sensitive? Do you think that marketers, because either the pressure, the deliverables, the results, that they're too sensitive?
I think marketers are definitely sensitive. The question perhaps is, are they more sensitive than everybody else? And I kind of want to frame it in a slightly different way. I think a lot of projects that are being undertaken by marketers are tough projects where marketers aren't necessarily like in control of the environment in which they operate. So contrast that, say, with tech teams, right? There are project requirements. There are specific things that need to be done. They get tested. Everybody's happy. Dev team gets the medal, right? Whereas with marketers, a lot of goals that are set for marketers are hard to really kind of predict if they will be hit. Not because the marketers don't work hard or they're not qualified, but it's difficult to predict other people's behavior, right?
Right.
And that's ultimately what you're trying to set the objectives around. For that reason, I think with marketers there is this sort of backdrop always, right, of this many projects layered on top of one another, right, that were never executed to the T in terms of outcomes. Like a lot of projects that get executed to the T in terms of the actual outcome, like the actual deliverables. So there's no issues there, but the actual outcomes almost rarely exceed the desired sort of expectations. And I think that creates this sort of aura of dissatisfaction or of sort of incompletion of work, right? And as that sort of accumulates, this next project that once again did not deliver, if you want to have a conversation of how it did not hit the right sort of targets, it's difficult because again, it's with the backdrop of everything else, right? So I think with marketers, what needs to happen is you need to kind of create an environment where you don't kind of get into this sort of infinite loop of this constant sort of dissatisfaction where you just demoralize the entire marketing team by this constant sort of negative feedback, right? So couple that with the fact that marketers are typically younger and perhaps are not as sort of prepared for sort of the toughness, right, of the business world where ultimately it's people's investments, right? It's people's money. It's, income versus expenses. Business has to grow. Competitors are outtaking you, right? It's a very sort of rough, tough space, right?
Right.
And marketers are viewed as sort of the force, right, that's going to prevent the business from going under, going to allow the business to make the money, right? So there's so much hope is associated with the marketing team's efforts.
Right.
So it almost like this perfect storm, right, of hardcore business interests, imperfect world of not being able to predict, other people's behavior. And for that reason, marketers in a very tough spot in a lot of times.
They are, yeah. It's a good point. The deliverables seem, accountability, it's tough. You deliver a certain result in dev and your product and customer service, and if the customers give you a good review or we're not losing as many customers, okay, cool. But the second it's like, hey, we need double the traffic, I think you had mentioned, right? Or it's a tougher thing to sell, right? Because there's so many variables, so many things that could be beyond the control. So when we talk about businesses, right, we talk about the industry, I know we talked about AI, and we talked about a lot of things there, but any businesses that kind of stick out to you that haven't fully understood the world we're living in, where things are moving, and are either behind or they're selling something that it's just, they don't get it. This stuff and where we are in the world right now, you shouldn't be selling this right now.
Yeah, so I think there are certain industries, right, that are super susceptible to essentially going not so much going under, but becoming irrelevant. So let's say my dad still pays for cable TV, whereas he just doesn't necessarily maybe is willing to kind of get into the YouTube subscription or connect Roku or something to his TV, you know. And for that reason, these cable companies, they're still out there, they're still existing, still doing something, no idea what they do, right? But I think the biggest racket that I kind of see today, and unlike the cable where just there's a certain maybe element to our society that's sort of part of that game still, this one involves everybody, and that's higher education. So colleges to me are the most in-your-face, flagrant racket that is, it's already dead. It just doesn't know it yet. Because it's essentially an antiquated system of allowing people for a fee to consume information that's otherwise freely available. It's almost like there is a field of growing, I don't know, apples that you can just freely go out there and pick. But yet there is a stand that sells these apples, and you go to the stand and buy it. So, and maybe the field is not visible behind the stand or something, but it's there. Just go out and grab it, right? So I think not only are they not sort of willing to accept that they're dead already, they seem to be thinking very fondly of their business model. Like you can see college fees going up, and the people are willing to continue paying them for this. And not only is AI here to help us consume information, but there's so many ways to consume information these days, right? What's one human being, the professor, no matter how smart, can do for you versus you just sitting in front of the computer sourcing same exact information from same exact people online. Perhaps the only difference is maybe they're able to systematize, your consumption a little bit. But even that is a solvable problem. Like I'm pretty sure I can go to AI and ask it, given these hundreds of videos, can you create a course for me, a curriculum for me so I can watch it? And can you summarize every video so I can get some ideas as to what key points were? But yeah, it's still around. And listen, I'm in the same boat. My son just finished his first year of college. I'm not even going to say how many thousands of dollars we paid. And I'm just annoyed by the fact that I'm falling into the same trap as everybody else.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people are still doing it?
As I said, it's a racket. You just don't know how to get out of it. Like you are so fearful. The society has, so not only do colleges have some sort of a hold on us as people and making us believe that that's the only way to learn, somehow they are in cahoots with the business world that seems to not hire you unless you have that, $200,000 diploma. Like, I'm not even getting into the kind of societal problems it causes it. Like, I'm lucky enough to be able to pay for my kids' education. Yeah. But you have people that are just going out there, digging themselves into these holes of loans that they'll never get out of, or will spend years getting out of, right? So, and like I said, it has all the characteristics of a racket, as in it's fear, it's it's if you don't do this, then this is going to happen, just think of a library in college, right? How many books does it have? 10,000, 50,000? Just what is that relative to the amount of information that's out there for you to grab?
That's true.
It's a drop in the bucket.
Available at your fingertips,
right?
On this device, super small. Okay, I'd love to dive into employees. I know we were talking a little bit about entrepreneurship and leadership and all that, but specifically to teams. And now we're bringing new team members into an organization. How do we spot an employee who cares versus one who just doesn't seem to care?
I think it caring for tasks, right, or caring for the outcomes is in my book, that's top of the list, right? And it shows that attentiveness, right? It shows in their ability to deliver their work. So an employee that is not as attentive or is not as caring about the outcomes, you'll have more issues that sort of feel like well, this was discussed, but what was done doesn't exactly match what was discussed. It happens more rarely with employees who care because they've invested into that task. And they will, let's say, if they feel along the way that there is a miscommunication, they'll come back to you and they'll get a clarification. They're not going to go off course as easily. So, and I think quite often also this sort of attentiveness and this caring for the outcome isn't really aligned or doesn't always match their qualifications of an individual. You can have like very qualified individuals who just don't get invested into what you're trying to do. And for that reason, for that sort of their skills for that reason are not as valuable as they would have otherwise been if they were just a little bit more attentive.
Right.
So that attentiveness to me is key, and you can kind of tell it by the quality of the deliverables.
No, makes sense.
How many times, for instance, you have to like repeat something, or how many times you have to like explain something. So sometimes, like I'm personally completely fine explaining things 10 times. For as long as I have a feeling that the fact that maybe my explanations aren't landing, I may be a function of, I don't know, complexity of a problem or something. But like if I feel that I cannot nail the explanation because the person is not attentive, that to me is just wasteful.
Yeah, that's a different story at that point. Is there a specific role in the team or in any organization that you feel like is usually misunderstood?
I think people generally tend to kind of not give their roles sort of full definition. For instance, somebody joins our team as a head of marketing just because they like the sound of it. Like it sounds kind of cool. I'm a head of marketing. But you really understand what it means. What it means is that absolutely everything within marketing is now your responsibility. So you better know how to handle everything from organic marketing to the paid marketing to the data analytics. And if you're going to tell me that you can do that for as long as I'm going to hire, 20 more people, then you're really not a head of marketing. Because how can you hire somebody to do data analytics if you don't really know how to interview that person? So you better be ultimately everything in terms of marketing, which is it's very difficult to be that, right? So arguably. But I think the one that's sort of easier for me, and the one that I kind of sort of run into more often is project management, where we do a lot of projects and try hiring project managers. Today we don't have that role. But my problem with that role was that you delegate a project to the project manager hoping that that's it. So here are the requirements, here's the project, here's the team, go out and do it, right? And then you start seeing things like people working late. You start seeing things like, delays in projects. And you then talk to the project manager and you realize that his report to you is how things transpired. All of a sudden, the person may not be all that aware of the nitty-gritty details of the projects or the interactions between the team. And they're kind of viewing this, hey, I'm a person who manages tasks.
Right.
Like I've set up a timeline. Every time the team comes up to me, I'm like, where are you on the timeline? I just update the timeline. I set up the meetings. I make sure that people show up for work. But no, I'm not an expert in, posting to Snapchat. Like that's just not my thing. That's my technical team. And that's so utterly wrong. That's your project. And it's got to get done on a certain day. And if it doesn't get done, it's like anybody else not doing their work.
Yeah.
So, and that's really not sometimes perceived as such. Sometimes, project management is perceived more of like I'm a person who just sort of ensures that everybody shows up and just sets up the meetings and takes notes.
So with project management or really anything else, multitasking comes up a lot. And I know we've talked about it in the past where you say no such thing. So tell me a little bit more about why.
So multitasking, right, is this notion that things can happen kind of simultaneously, that you can do things at the same time. As in, say, for instance, you can be in the meeting, listening to me, at the same time dropping a note into a chat window, at the same time, listening to the music in the background, enjoying the sun, the massager, massages your feet at the same time. You know what I mean? Like you can have a whole bunch of activities actually happening at the same time, and it seems like you are that good, right? You are achieving that. But in reality, I want to sort of compare this to what the computers do, because you think that your computer multitasks, right? But in reality, the way multitasking works in the computer, there is a processor, the thing that actually processes it, right? And if you have, say, 5 windows open that are doing, 5 operations, what the computer actually does, it cuts that up in chunks of work, and for a fraction of a nanosecond, it does one task from one window, then to another task, and then it just repeats. So in reality, at any given instance of time, there's only one thing happening. But since it's sort of like round robins, right?
It's super
It's
fast.
sort of like does it super fast. Like you have a perception that the computer is now able to kind of do things so quickly and parallel, right? So, but we as human beings, we actually are the same way. So even if you are listening to me but writing an email, for the brief moment of time, you're only writing an email.
Yeah.
And for the other brief moment in time, you're only listening to me. So you're really not multitasking.
That's true.
So, for example, try to have multiple windows on my desktop recently. So I work off my laptop, which is arguably like a very sort of antiquated way of working. People tend to have like a lot of windows.
Yeah.
And I ordered a couple of screens and I kind of put them up and I sat there like going like this the entire day. And it was extremely, I got the work done. And in some cases, it felt nice. Like I look sideways and I see my message, and I look that way and I kind of see, a system issue, and I look this way and I do some other stuff. But I was exhausted by the end of the day. I got the same amount of work done, but somehow like the energy was just drained out of me. I was just exhausted through that sheer just barrage, right, of information that came my way. Because somehow when I'm working on like a single screen, I'm still managing to focus on, let's say, a piece of code for a little while, on an email for the next while, on a meeting for the next while, but at least it's not happening at the same time.
Right. I know that we've tried, like as a company with a culture, really just build that, be focused and be present in what you're doing. If it's a meeting, there's no expectation that you're also trying to get work done. And I think that's key to an organization's success. For people to do anything really well, they need to be focused on just that one thing and do it really well at that point in time,
Right.
before they move on.
I do think, though, in all fairness, I think it's hard to achieve sort of a state where it's one thing for a prolonged period of time.
Sure.
Like it's possible during the day, you'll get your priorities changed multiple times.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I don't think there is any need to do messaging while in meetings and things like that, right? So I think again, people just they kind of overestimate their ability to do this, and they underestimate the impact on their sort of mental state and their just overall level of fatigue, right? And for that reason, the burnout, right? There's this infamous burnout that everybody kind of faces, right? But I wonder if we're doing it to ourselves. Like I see people, on the street walking the dog while on the phone. So, I mean, it's your decompression that's happening right now. Like you are out there, just breathe that air, look around, enjoy that time, right? I'm assuming the person probably just, stepped away from his work desk because everybody works from home. But even then, a YouTube video is playing, right? So you're not decompressing, you're not unwinding, right? And so it's not just the work-related stress, it's the fact that even like after work, you're still not allowing yourself to just decompress.
I think you said this a couple months ago when we were talking, that you felt like we've lost the ability to just be by ourselves. Maybe we're afraid, but it's rare for that moment where we're not connected to something and doing something, but just with ourselves.
Yeah, humans are remarkable creatures. So our brain does a lot of very creative things to avoid being bored. So try to be on the plane for 2 hours without a phone or TV in the seat in front of you or something. But I'm old enough to remember planes, right? No Wi-Fi, no TVs. TVs used to be only on international flights, and there'll be like one TV in the front of the cabin for like the whole group, and when it starts. Even that was like a remarkable achievement to kind of get your head off of this boredom of flying a 10-hour flight. But for 2 or 3 hours, there was no TV. So you're on the plane, people read newspapers, people played games. That's also, by the way, an example of brain going out of its way to get you to do something where you're not just sort of in that state of boredom. It's a state of boredom or a state of just mental relaxation. Just sit there, just think for a little while. just think of things, right? There's this infamous story of Bill Gates. So Bill Gates apparently drives a friend when he was younger to an airport. And a friend has this recollection, like he's saying, "Oh, I've been chauffeured by Bill Gates once," he says. And he drives in this car that he's driving. I can't remember the brand of the car, regular car. And the radio is taken out. He's like, "Bill, did you get robbed? What happened to your car? What happened?" And he's like, No, I had it taken out." So, but Bill, like, why? Why did you have the radio taken out of your car? He is like, "Well, I got it taken out of my car, so as I'm driving, nothing distracts me from thinking about Microsoft."
Whoa.
So like I have to like think of what's important to me, right? So and here we are. Not only is our radio is there, but like it's a constant barrage. People just do not stop like grabbing information off their phones, right? So we are never in a state of just thinking.
Wow.
Yeah. So and the funny story is, so my mom flew from like New York to Dallas, right? And she's in her 70s. And I'm like overhearing the conversation that she's having with my kids, and my kids are like, "Okay, what'd you do on the plane?" She's like, "Nothing. I just sat there." And my kids are like, "What do you mean you just sat there? You didn't have a phone? Did you know?" Like they were trying to tell her that on the plane, I guess she could have connected her phone to the Wi-Fi, and my mom was like, "No, I didn't do that." And the kids like couldn't understand how she could sit on a plane for 3 hours, not connected. And she's like, "Listen, I just sat there."
I'll be honest, that to me sounds challenging. So what that sounds to me is I would have picked up the emergency card and started reading.
Again, your brain would have like forced you to do something, right?
Wow.
To find a way to not be sort of by yourself.
Have you gotten there? Have you gotten to the point where you feel like you could go?
No, listen, I'm no different. I'm a human being. Like I'm as susceptible to all these things as everybody else. I mean, the only thing I would tell you is that when I walk my dog, I don't have my phone. And I get a lot of complaints, by the way, at home that somehow somebody was trying to reach me and I'm not available. But I've only taken a 15-minute walk. So
the world ends in
by the way,
15
so
minutes.
you couple that with expectations that people have of you being on that phone at all times. And maybe that's also playing tricks on you, how you now have to be. We are at dinners and people checking phones.
Oh, no.
So because other things are happening in life, they say. I can't just disconnect from other things happening in life. So it just blows my mind because I remember the world of no phones, like of no internet, and we lived and we were perfectly fine.
Yeah, we were. So is the Apple Watch something that was to make sure that you were reachable during your 15-minute walk?
I took it off, right? So I actually like the idea of an Apple Watch. Again, this is not an ad, but for Apple Watch, they don't need it. But that's actually my attempt to almost like a detoxing, because basically I don't want to carry my phone all the time. So I do my watch. It has my watch. It has the time, first of all, which is, by the way, probably like 90% of why I picked this thing up, just to kind of see the time. So I got my time, and if necessary, I got my calling. I got my card. So if I'm walking around and I need to buy something, I can just buy things. My wife has a Tesla, so like I can actually drive a car by only having a watch as well. I don't need my keys. I don't need this. So that's actually like my attempt at lessening.
Wow.
Without completely disconnecting. Like I don't want to be that weirdo, right? That is just completely disconnected. So like that's just not gonna fly not in my family, not in my company. Like it's just you don't want to be that person. But I think that's like an attempt at detoxing a little bit.
I think I know what my next gift to you is going to be. It's going to be one of those flip phones from the early 2000s with no data connection.
We should have that challenge, by the way.
We should.
It's
how long it can go.
Yeah.
Oh man, we should do that at the company retreat. Everybody gets together. Everybody puts their phone in a locked bin. Everybody gets a flip phone, and you can message your family. This is my number for the remainder of this trip.
But I think the challenge there is not even so much that you are able to disconnect or not. Like, will your loved ones be okay with that? So I think like the people that are around you, they cannot. So today, a 12-year-old kid without a phone, and the parents are all nervous because they can't reach a kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how did we live before this? So was there, people didn't have the phone, so it was perfectly fine. But now it's not so much that the kid needs the phone, but it's the parents who needs the phone, right?
Right.
So because of reachability, tracking, and all sorts of sort of things that we've invented as things we need.
Paranoia, right? I mean, like you said before, we have so much information that we're bombarded with at all times that we're hearing about the bad stuff happening left and right as well. So, I mean, as a new dad, man, the amount of times I'm probably unhealthy thinking about all the things that could go wrong.
Right.
I can understand the parents who put the little Apple tracker in the shoes and all that stuff.
I think it's simpler. People like talking about us not caring about the data privacy. I think people are completely okay with not caring about the privacy for as long as that buys them safety. Which, by the way, in the words of Benjamin Franklin, like when you do compromises like that, you don't deserve either, he says.
Wow.
So you can't compromise on things that are of principal importance.
Right.
You can't compromise on freedoms. You can't compromise, this and that. But be that as it may, we are humans. We are perfectly fine with this, right? So we would completely are willing to compromise. So we track our kids. We track each other. Apparently, there is some sort of a thing on like on Apple where you could be like you can know where people are, whether people got home safely or something. Like people just go out of the way to track themselves and each other, and find new comfort in that.
Right.
Take that away. Oh my God! I left my house without a phone. The world has ended. Like I'm completely dysfunctional without my phone all of a sudden, and then you go back, and then you pick up a phone, right?
God forbid your phone battery dies halfway through the day or while you're out.
Right. So not only are you not willing to be without a phone because you want to be entertained all the time, right? But also the others can see you without a phone because of the whole thing. So my dad tells me that, oh, Vital, you are unreachable. I am having a hard time reaching you. And I'm like, Dad, what are you talking about? Like, I've answered every call. But you do it like 8 hours later. but okay. So, but it's not only that, but it also has to be real time.
Yeah.
Why aren't you responding?
I'm going to start giving people my mailing address. And like, hey.
I actually mailed a letter recently. So, yeah,
Really?
it's still going on.
My gosh. How many stamps do you have to use?
I've made this amazing investment, turns out. I bought like a book of 1,000 forever stamps, of which I've probably used 20. So I think I can probably pass it along to my kids. Wow. And because like you pay one price, and no matter what they do to stamps, you can still kind of send that out.
With just one stamp?
It's a forever stamp. Like there's no pricing on it, right? So you pay it. So these stamps I can probably sell them for double over price today. Anybody looking for business ideas, buy forever stamps. They seem to be
so
always
cool.
going up.
But then again, like 15 years from now, are we going to be mailing stuff? I don't know.
Good question.
Collectors.
No answer
collectors.
there. Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about entrepreneurship. I'd love to jump into some success, right? Because that's ultimately what anybody, whether you're in business or not, you're looking for success. What does success mean?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So success seems to be defined by certain achievement, right, in a certain area that is of certain, I guess, respect or caliber, right? Some sort of high end, like you won a medal or you sold a company or, I don't know, you had 10 kids, like whatever. You bought a nice house or you won an inheritance. Like, it could be anything. You harvested an extra ton of potatoes, like all of that is success, right? But I think ultimately none of these things individually is going to make you happy. So it's the totality of achievements. So you would need to win enough in the sort of money game. You need to win enough in that sort of family and kids game. You need to win enough in the health department, right? You need to win enough in the friends area. So the real estate area. So, and once you have enough of the building blocks in place, you can sit back in that nice lounge chair in your yard, and then sip that beer and say, okay, this is success. I think the fact that you are a champion of the world or the fact that you sold a company for, 100 million, that may not make you happy because there'll be other problems in your life or other things that you wish you could have. And I would bet that if you have $100 million in your pocket, all sorts of things are going to be very difficult for you. Try to have friends when you have that much money. Try to build a family, So it's very difficult to be rich amongst the people that are not rich, to build relationships there. So for that reason, as you're making that money, you probably need to be investing into building relationships so that way it's not too late by the time you get to the end game. So it's a totality of factors.
Wow. Multitasking. Not multitasking.
Lots of projects.
Okay. So let's factor success then, filter into business. What advice do you have for people who want to succeed in business?
I think, again, kind of going back to the question of what success is, and I think we talked about how success is like the totality of factors, and one of the, and business basically delivers on one of these factors,
One piece of the
effectively,
puzzle.
one piece of the puzzle, right? So, and if we also talk about how like huge amounts of money are almost unnecessary to define your success or give you that state of peacefulness or happiness, right? I think a lot of people are, a lot of business ventures or ventures that don't even happen because the way people sort of come up with these ideas kind of brings them into these dead ends of either ideas that are too big or ideas that are impossible to implement. People tend to kind of try to invent ideas that are overly grand versus thinking of an idea that it's a product, it's $9 a month, I got 5,000 customers. So right then and there, you probably built a company that could sell for $5 to $10 million. So that is a much more achievable task versus saying, you know what, I'm going to develop, I don't know, like a new electric car. I'm going to develop a new social network, compete with Facebook. So I'm not saying that that's not possible, but it's just such a different trajectory. Like one, you can do at home with a friend or without, but it's you and a Stripe account, right? And the other one is massive amounts of investment, like all sorts of legal implications. So I think being successful is more around sort of the infamous arts of war principle, where the better generals are not the ones that sort of win all the battles, are the ones that don't sort of necessarily fight the battles that they can lose. So just don't enter the sort of the business idea that is going to be overly difficult to do and give you like this perception, like this possibility that you're going to fail. Try to, you know, there are plenty of services, right, that you can build.
Oh, yeah.
A few dollars a month, a few thousand customers.
Yeah.
What is that? And all of a sudden, like it opens up. All of a sudden, you can do this, you can do that. And also, by the way, it doesn't have to be original. What if there is a service? You're just going to do a better version of it.
Right, right.
And maybe you're not going to get to 20 million. You're going to get to 2 million. Like, it's still success.
Yeah. With AI, right? Because we've been talking about that. There's this general fear, I think, online. And we even talked about the fact that researchers are moving on from is it going to take over to what do we do when it does? Is there a fear in your mind of how it's going to change the world?
I think we should be pragmatic about this more so than fearful. We've lived, at least I've lived through quite a few technological challenges. I grew up with the black and white TV, and then I saw a personal computer, and then I saw an internet, and then email. How crazy was that, right? Then I saw social networks. Then I saw video calling. And then, so now sort of the AI stuff. I feel like my life has been changed so many different times, quite drastically, by so many different technologies, right? And every time it sort of happened, society has changed at that moment in time. Probably certain professions have disappeared, certain professions were created, right? The way we live changed, the way we communicate changed, right? And perhaps, you know, as we all get older, right, it's sort of like a natural thing. I'm not sure if you were like how often you kind of talk to, let's say, older people, but there is a lot of them kind of have this sort of common sort of idea that they always present as how the world used to be a better place. But it's not so much that the world used to be a better place. The world used to be simpler. They were young and kind of like, that was the best time in their lives during that time, right? So there always this sort of almost kind of, there's a sensitivity to those times. They were just the good times because I was there. You know what I mean? Like, in reality, a lot of these times that they are kind of like talking about that they seemingly were better, they weren't better. Like, I imagine the life when, in order to make a call, like when I was growing up, if I wanted to make a call, I had to like run 2 houses down to the person who actually had a phone, knock on their door, ask them to make the call the other person. there's versus now I can just like text somebody, and so you can't tell me that that was a better world, right? But to these people it was, and obviously they have all sorts of fears that the new world like is gonna somehow unsettle them. I would argue that my mom, who may also think that the old world was better, but being able to do a FaceTime with my daughter, her granddaughter, is amazing for her. Right. Otherwise, she'll be like all by herself for days on end until the weekend when we see her. Like now, so yes, they're right. The old world was kind of simpler, in some ways better. But these improvements, they do improve our lives as well. So I think yes, AI is bound to change our world rather drastically in many areas. But if the pattern continues, it is for the better.
Right. As long as we all don't die from AI, I'm okay with that.
But if you die, you don't care.
Yeah, at that point, I'm dead, right? Feel bad for the people who get left back. Okay, we talked about data privacy a little bit, but should we be worried? I mean, we've kind of given it up in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Should we be worried about our data and everywhere that it's
I think
collected?
we like to talk how we care about our data privacy. We'll like to talk about it. Like I enter these conversations so many times with people, but at the same time, like in your house, when it gets dark in the evening, do you close the shades so that people cannot see inside?
Oh yeah.
You do that?
I do.
But not every person does that. Like I walk my dog around the neighborhood, and some people do close and some people don't close. Like you can totally see inside. You can like see what they're doing inside of the house, and like, they just don't care. Like, so I think probably most people don't care and some people do. So that's just like foundationally that yes, people care, but most don't. But definitely pretty much everybody behaves in a way that they don't care. So even if they do care, their behavior suggests otherwise. Because here you are, surrounded by devices. Look, I got one device. We can record it here all over the place. This is going to go live. Thousands of people are going to see it. I got my glasses even with the whole built-in Wi-Fi. I got my
camera.
watch. By the time I get to the airport, there'll be like camera in every single angle. You know what I mean? Like anything I do, 20 people are going to take out the phone and record me. There is no privacy.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. So I think it's more of a pretend thing. Like, oh yeah, I care about my. No, you don't. Like if you cared about your privacy, you'd be okay on that flip phone, if anything, right? So
I'm gonna get you one. I'm serious.
Yeah.
All right. Was there a piece of technology that when it became available, it just blew your mind?
Yes, sure. I think I'm gonna tell my story on that sort of technology that sort of blew me away at a time. But I do want to say that since then it's been eclipsed by other things.
Sure.
But I'm only kind of talking about this one instance because I was younger and it was more impressive in the context of how dark the times were and how little tech was just available generally. Because clearly the stuff the AI does is just beyond impressive. But this was probably like mid-90s. The internet was one of those dial-up internets, which probably precedes your time, but this was when you dialed in using the regular phone lines, which were copper. They weren't even like IP phones. They were like regular phone lines down in the ground and everything. So you would dial in. It makes this weird kind of nice noise when it dials, and then you get like 20 kilobytes per minute or per second or something, like crazy slow download. So like any picture takes literally like 30 seconds to a minute to load. Like you open up a picture and like it literally like from top to bottom, like it loads. And then, oh my God, it's a picture. So those were those kind of times. So in those times, right, there comes a moment when I guess the internet just gotten a little bit faster. And I was in the country for just a couple of years. So I had like a lot of friends still back in the old country. And my communication with them were letters. Like I would write them a letter and then they would write me a letter. And then the email came about. I would write them an email and they would write me an email. And that came, I guess the internet got a little faster and we were able to do a video call. So I was there in front of my computer. I pressed a button. I think it was maybe Skype or maybe it was one of the earlier messengers. Probably was Skype already. And I saw them on the other side. This was the most remarkable thing that I've ever experienced. It was beyond magical. It was just like seeing somebody and talking to them on the other side of the world. That just completely just blew me away.
My God.
So I don't think I was as blown away since then. I was impressed many
Sure.
times over
Sure,
since
sure.
then. But I think that moment in time, I was just astounded by what's possible.
I feel like even now, things seem almost inevitable. When something comes out, it sounds crazy, but there's almost this lack of surprise in me when I hear about the new Chat GPT feature that does this and this and that. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome, but yeah, kind of figured it would get there one day or another.
Because it's probably not like a lot of these inventions, they don't necessarily change the way we perceive world. I think like some of the more memorable things would be things like when mouse was introduced, like a computer mouse was introduced, like people, mouse, what for, right? I don't know when an iPhone was introduced, but maybe even more importantly, when an iPhone where Steve Jobs calls up his lead designer, right, live on the stage, FaceTime gets introduced, right? So I think like there are these moments in time when like some truly remarkable tech gets introduced. When it gets improved subsequently, now you can now FaceTime with two people, or you can now use your mouse without a wire or something. So that now doesn't necessarily sort of
incremental.
There was a time, for example, when the internet, it was all wired and then it was wireless, but it was okay, but it wasn't. The revolution was already made with the fact that the internet was there. So I think like what you're referring to is like these more incremental kind of updates to the tech. Maybe it just hasn't been a while. I would tell you that I was utterly impressed by Meta Ray-Ban glasses that are both, I can take pictures with it, I can listen to my music. That was pretty impressive, like, to put that into glasses.
What if I told you that? Do you remember the Google glasses when they came out? The product?
Yeah, I wasn't part of that movement, but I do remember them. Are they still around?
I think they just revived it this year. They're going to be kind of developing something new, but it must have been 2013, 2014.
Sure. About 10 years ago.
I just left high school. I was going to college, and I had applied to something. I don't remember what it was, and I got it there. And I was walking around, and I'm seeing the text on the screen, and the camera's translating the text, and I'm like, whoa, this? Yeah. I'm about to become a human cyborg at this point. I'm going to have the internet at my fingertips. You're right.
But I think some tech is probably just too early, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe they were a little early.
Oh, absolutely.
We were in San Diego, if you remember, and I remember right there on the promenade, we're walking by, and there's this individual stands there with the Ray-Ban glasses. He looks up at the tree, and as I'm walking by, I'm realizing that he's talking. And he says, "Tell me what I'm seeing." So and it's so interactive, right? So I think there is a degree of changing of the world to the change versus like a more incremental change.
Right.
So like AI in principle obviously is changing, but I think the key thing to remember with AI is that it's sort of like one of the sort of weird situations. It's there. 100% of people knows that it's there, but only 2% of the people know how it already changed the world. So 98% of the people do not realize how the world is already different.
Yeah.
So, and it's both opportunity and kind of scary because, as those who are in the know, right, they are perhaps able to take advantage, right, of whatever, is being changed, right? True.